And will the U.S. allow Gazan refugees to enter the United States? Are there plans to admit Gazan refugees into the U.S.?
Again, we believe that the people of Gaza want to stay in Gaza. That's what we've consistently heard from Palestinian leadership and others in the region, and we believe that they have the right to do so.
Look at that. That's the Biden State Department spokesperson, Matt Miller, saying that, well, I'm not going to be able to say whether or not the U.S. can admit refugees from Gaza or not. I'm just don't know if I can say that.
They would have stayed there.
Yeah. What? That doesn't make any sense. Right? I mean, can't you just let us know? They can't actually answer about the hostages either. Welcome back. Dana Loesch here, bottom of this second hour. And I wanted to pull that up as well because it's kind of, how many hostages are there? So this is what gets me. I read this tweet, and this is from, who's he with? Let me make sure that, okay, so he's a reporter. And he says that the U.S. was suspending charter flights for Americans out of Israel due to a lack of demand. Nearly 600 U.S. citizens in Gaza are unable to leave due to what the U.S. says are a number of Hamas demands. So Hamas is holding them hostage, basically. These are Americans who were in Gaza on October 7th, and Hamas will not allow them to leave the country. Now, you would think that that would be a story that a media outlet would lead with, but you would be shocked because they're not. They had this, it was like way down in the bottom of the story. There's a couple of different places, including, there's a piece in Jerusalem Post where they're all saying that Hamas was making a number of demands before it was allowing people to leave Gaza, and also involved in some of those who are being held hostage in Gaza are American. I mean, that's you are holding them hostage. That's what this is. Hamas is holding them hostage. 600 U.S. citizens. I'm really, wait, why are we just now? Because honestly, this started making the rounds yesterday. And I was looking to see when the first piece was this was it was yesterday. Literally yesterday is when this first came out. Play that audio that you just dropped in there, Kane. Because and when was this? This was yesterday when John Kirby was asked, how many Americans have you confirmed are hostages? Listen to what he says here.
How many Americans have you confirmed in that time are actually hostages?
Less than 10.
That's not a number. I want a number from you.
Less than 10.
Why can't you give a number?
James, I've given you an answer. What's your next question?
Well, it seems like there's more than that because several of these publications are saying that, well, they don't lead with it. One is Harrods that says that there were 600 still held there, and Hamas is making demands and not allowing people to leave. And then they get into, there's 600. It's kind of a big deal. It's a lot more than 10.
Yeah. It's definitely not less than 10.
Yeah. Say, meanwhile, the nearly 600 U.S. citizens in Gaza are unable to leave because Hamas is making a number of demands before they allow people to leave Gaza, just as we believe they ought to release all hostages they're holding, blah, blah, blah. This is what Miller said. Miller was talking about the hostages and saying that some people are being forced to remain in Gaza. Why is this not a huge story? Why did John Kirby go out and say, and why did he tell James Rosen, who's asking him, why did he tell them that there are less than 10 or fewer than 10? Because it sounds like there's a hell of a lot more than that. A lot more than that. 600. So you learned that there are 1,000, all of a sudden, 1,000 hostages there, and then you have like 600 some odd that are Americans. What in the world? And they suspended charter flights because they say there wasn't a demand. But these are, again, Americans that have been there since October 7th. And it's not really a lot. And a lot of people, by the way, a lot of Americans who are in Israel have chosen to stay there just because it's not really safe for them to try to leave. That's something else that I'd been hearing too. The people that is being reported and that friends are there are saying that it's not safe for anybody to even try to leave right now. That's how dangerous all this is. So this is a hostage crisis. This isn't a question of hostages. This is you have a ton of hostages in Gaza, and I can see that the administration may not want to emphasize the scope of the issue, but because I would think the media attention would probably make it even more difficult and may help Hamas. But lying about this, you realize this is just going to make him look like this is Afghanistan 2.0, right? But even on a even larger scale with that many hostages. Seems like that should be an incredibly important story, and it seems like that's what they should be leading with, but they're not. And John Kirby, that was just an outright lie. I was looking to see if he wasn't even challenged on that. He wasn't even challenged on it. Wow. So I'm just amazed by this. All amazed by it. All of the people who are demanding, and I'm looking at my collection that I have saved of all of these different tweets from whether it's politicians, whether it's influencers, whether it's editorialists, even some celebrities, and the like, who are going on and on about the need for humanitarian demonstration from Israel. They need to see humanitarian moves from Israel. Not a single one of these people have asked for any of the hostages to be released. Now I'm looking at those two. I'm wondering, do you think if people knew? I mean, really, they should just be. I mean, they should realize that the only reason that we're in this situation is because A, Hamas started it, and B, all they would have to do is release the hostages, which they won't. But do you think that, two, also, I can kind of go both ways with this. If the media is reporting on the wide number of hostages that are being held, and it's a lot, greater than, John Kirby saying, no, it's less than 10. It also changes the narrative coming from the Hamas apologists who don't think that less than 10 is enough to demand that Hamas release the hostages first. Does that make sense? Do they not think that that's a lot of people, so they just don't have to make the demands that, it's just a few people. So we don't have to say that Hamas should release the hostages. Because I've actually seen people make the argument, including New York Times editorialists, that is the whole country of people worth this, X amount of, they've actually been trying to do this Peter Singer logic. What are you saying over there? Because you're...
Oh, no, I was just... No. Never mind. I was on a point that you made earlier.
Okay. You look like you're going to say something sassy.
Yeah,
so I was curious.
Think about it. We gave them access to $6 billion and gave them, some prisoners for, 5 Americans, I guess. But he's acting like less than 10 is, something he can just shrug off. That's my... I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, less than 10. It's not a, I'm glad that James Rosen was pressing him on it.
Right.
Well, how many Americans have you confirmed? Well, it's less than 10.
Is that 9? Is that 9 or 2?
Yeah. Or is it 600? Because this is what's being reported, that it's 600. Is it this many? And that's a legitimate question.